Folks, thanks for your patience. We'll be up and running here in just about a minute.
I'm going to pass this to you, even though I think all the council members have it, but it's from Foothill. I think they wanted to pass this.
Yeah, we're all set?
Okay.
You ready? Okay, well, good evening, everyone. I'm going to call the city council meeting to order at this time. Madam City Clerk, would you mind calling the roll, please?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Jean Goss,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Edward Garcia,
Present.
Councilmember Rachel Arismendi,
Present?
Councilmember Kelly Krebs,
Here.
and Councilmember Robert Parkhurst is participating by teleconference.
Councilmember Parkhurst.
Yes.
Thank
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Great.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum this evening.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Councilmember Krebs will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and Inspiration tonight.
Please stand if you can. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I was a bit pressed for time, so I'm going to admit to borrowing some thanks to the Scrooged screenwriters and definitely apologies to Bill Murray. But I've adapted his redemption speech at the end of the movie for tonight's inspiration about the holiday season. So it is the one time of the year when we all act a little nicer, we smile a little easier, we cheer a little more. For a couple of weeks or days or maybe minutes out of the whole year, we are the people that we always hoped we would be. It's a miracle. And we can't waste that miracle. You have to do something. You have to take a chance. You have to get involved. There are people that are having trouble making their miracle happen. And if you give, then it can happen. Then the miracle can happen to you. And if you believe, then the miracle will happen and you'll want it to happen again. It can happen every day. You've just got to want that feeling. And if you like it and you want it, you'll get greedy for it. You'll want it every day of your life and it can happen to you. If we all believe in it, work for it, then you make the miracle happen for others and for you. So let's believe, work, give, and enjoy the miracle. Have the happiest of holidays, Sierra Madre, and we'll see you in a crisp, brand new year.
Okay, thank you. Okay, on that high note, we'll move ahead, and I'd like to get approval of the agenda for the evening, with or without
I
amendments.
move to approve the agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
It's unanimous. We have an agenda. And, glasses on here. And also, we need to get a report out from the closed session from City Attorney Garagosian.
Mayor, the City Council met in closed session on December 6, 2022 at their special meeting to discuss public employee performance evaluation for two positions, both the city manager position and the city attorney position. And at that meeting, no reportable action was taken. And the City Council also met today in closed session to discuss anticipated litigation. And again, no reportable action was taken.
Okay, thank you, City Attorney. Moving right along, I'd like to get approval for reading resolutions and ordinances. I'd like to get a motion, please.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. And we have 4 sets of minutes for 4 meetings that we looked at. And I'd like to get a motion for approval or amendment.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Parkhurst.
I provided the city clerk some minor clarification edits to the minutes, nothing substantial, but I provided those to them in advance of the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Do you have those?
We did receive those, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Any other amendments? Is there a motion for approval for the 4 sets of minutes?
I move to approve with the amendments submitted by Councilmember Parkhurst.
Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
That also carries unanimously. Which brings us, we're moving right along to mayor and city council reports. Who'd like to go first? Councilmember Parkhurst, want to do the honors?
Well, thank you, sir. So I had, as is typical between meetings, I had a number of Clean Power Alliance meetings. There were 4 meetings that I attended, nothing to report out. We also had the Natural Resources meeting in the month of November. I wasn't able to attend, but I got a report out from Annalise Carlson. And at that meeting, they were looking at the urban management plan and that they're going to do some minor updates to it. Nothing major, but things to represent the types of trees that need to be removed from that plan and updated. And we will see that before us in April or March or April. And then they also continue to discuss the climate action list that they're looking at for recommendations for projects and activities to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in the city. And I'm not sure the exact timing on when that'll come, but they're continuing to work on it. They have another meeting on Wednesday of this week. That is all.
Okay, thank you. Who else would like to go next? Councilmember Arizmendi.
Sure. Just a quick report out. I was the policy board member for the Foothill Workforce Development Board Policy Board, which is a JPA, or Joint Powers Authority, between our city, Pasadena, Doherty, South Pasadena, and Arcadia. And we had our last meeting. I'm looking forward to whoever is going to get appointed next. But I wanted to report out there was a motion to move the administrative and operational responsibilities to Pasadena City College. After review of a lot of research, input from stakeholders, we elected not to do that. So the Foothill Workforce Development Board will continue to operate the workforce development activities and operations for our 5 cities. And if and when, I shouldn't say if, when we appoint the next person, I'd be happy to help transition the city council member who will be representing on that board. The next item I wanted to share is just a fun one. I met with the state librarian yesterday and in Sacramento, and I was just so excited to be able to thank him on behalf of the city for our grant that was granted through the state library, and the $300,000 plus, which we did have to match, which we will have to match in order to capture the entire amount. But it's an exciting addition to the $10 million that Assemblymember Holden had granted us. And so we have a lot of exciting things happening with the library, and I'm sure we have some of our trustees here today and maybe some of our friends. And just a big thank you to, there's been so many activities in the last few weeks with, whether it's the chamber, whether it's the police department with, and fire department with the parade, chamber with the winter festival, also the post office work. If you haven't seen all the plants that have been planted there, I mean, there's just been so much work that's been done over the last few days, and I just want to congratulate all of our community members, our volunteers, and obviously our staff that are the liaisons to that. But it really just makes the holidays that much more festive and makes us appreciate our village in the foothills that much more.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor. So I attended the San Gabriel Valley sector of the MTA board, and we elected the new representative on the MTA board, which, you know, was administrative and not particularly interesting. But the interesting part of the meeting was that there was unanimity among all of the, and this is made up of all, you know, cities in the San Gabriel Valley, really putting a push to extend the Gold Line out to Claremont, and really making sure that everyone stays in the ear of MTA and our other elected officials, state and county elected officials, to push that along. And I don't think there's any question that it's, you know, in jeopardy, but just in terms of expediting that project. So there seemed to be a lot of excitement about that, and I think you know, that seems to be on top of mind for folks in that way. So that, I think that would be really helpful for our, you know, for the transportation, you know, of our area for sure, and hopefully alleviate some of the congestion on the freeway. And I just wanted to echo what Councilmember Arizmendi said about the number of city events that we've had probably since our last meeting, definitely before Thanksgiving. And a special shout out to the Chamber for a really amazing return of our Winterfest. I mean, the city was hopping. I talked to so many business owners who said that they had been busy all day. There was a number of people who commented that a lot of their the folks that were stopping by were from out of town, so that's obviously great to introduce our town and its amazing atmosphere and businesses to folks outside of our area. So kudos to them, and you know, they really did put us back to where I think we were pre-pandemic, which is really exciting. So that's my report.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There were 2 senior community commission meetings since our last council meeting. They're a very active commission. The first meeting, we had management analyst Carlson come and give an update on some of the transportation issues that we've been working on, trying to figure out if the roundabout is the correct way to go forward, and trying to fill that gap since the 2 MTA lines have been gone to help our seniors get around. Also, there is an update on the Nancy Walsh tribute plaque that's going to be going to the Hart House. That hasn't been completed yet, but that's near completion. They're excited about that. She did a lot for the commission, getting lots of funds for the commission so they can operate. They also announced a joint chili cook-off with the Women's Club, and that will be held at the Hart House, presumably. And their activities keep increasing. The amount of seniors that come out for these events since the pandemic, or even, I think some of them are more than pre-pandemic levels, especially chair yoga. They had 145 seniors come over the last month, I think, for chair yoga. That's very, very popular. Also, the city manager and I attended the SCAG, the Southern California Association of Governments Economic Summit. It was held in downtown Los Angeles this year. They hadn't had it live for 2 years due to the pandemic. There was, obviously as an economist, it was very interesting to me. Some things that were highlighted were, as we probably do know, that wages aren't keeping up with prices, and that could have a drag on some issues. We did learn about the regional economic outlook, region by region. They also launched a regional data platform, which I haven't looked at yet, but I think it could really be helpful in some of our planning here within the city. We heard about every single region and the highlights and lowlights of last year. A lot of discussion about creating and sustaining growth. One thing I kind of take away from these meetings is sometimes they're not designed for small towns like Sierra Madre. They're kind of looking at Long Beaches and Pasadenas and things of that nature, and whether or not some of the things that we learn from these conferences are applicable. So I reached out to one of the employees there and I said, you know, there's a lot of member cities that are smaller. We'd like to have some applicable bites for these things. So she took that to heart and she agreed, and hopefully we'll hear a little bit more on how to help towns like Sierra Madre. So that's the goal. And also some of the fun things, I want to echo what has been said here at the dais already. The decorating of the Christmas tree, I'd like to thank Michelle Keith for organizing that and spearheading that. The tree looks amazing, and that kind of kicked off our winter wonderland, and that was an amazing event. I was there for the beginning of it. I had an engagement later in the day. That was fantastic. And also want to give kudos to Bob Spears and Jim Walsworth for kind of spearheading what was going on at the post office. My oldest son, Justin, attended. There were so many people there that he only planted 5 plants, and there were hundreds of plants. So that's, I say that the community is stepping up and getting out there, and that's what makes this town great. So thank you to the community. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So I have a little bit longer report, so please bear with me. I've been kind of busy. We were all busy in the month of November. It was just a busy month. Going back to Veterans Day weekend, on November 11th, I was really honored to represent the council at the Memorial Park, to proclaim that day as Ken Anwalt Day. Ken Anwalt is a veteran of World War II. He's still here and was an amazing, brave serviceman in World War II, and was just very important and just a wonderful experience to be able to do that. And Ken, if you're watching, congratulations. On November 14th, I attended the Los Angeles County Sanitation District meeting. Not a whole lot to report. They were tracking the effluent, and they're tracking viruses in the effluent, and they were talking about the increase in influenza and COVID in the sewage that they're tracking. And of course, that's been reported in the media since then as well. So it's right, the case rates are rising. On November 16th, I was pleased to attend with my colleagues the annual prayer breakfast for the Women's Club. And, you know, we're back, you know, we weren't able to do that during COVID, and it was something I always look forward to every year, and was very well attended. The quiche, again, was superb, so that's their specialty. And so kudos to the Women's Club for doing this, and especially to President Veronica Vasquez for putting on such a wonderful event. On Saturday, November 26th, the fire department gave Santa Claus, myself, and our Rose Float Princesses and Prince a ride down the boulevard in our fire trucks from the firehouse to the Kirsten Court, where Santa and I then lit the holiday tree, which was obviously a thrill for me and Santa and everyone else involved. And of course, it was so well attended down there that day. The festivities were just amazing. So kudos to everybody who was involved in that. Just an amazing Sierra Madre event. I also attended the last Library Board of Trustees meeting on November 28th. And finally, last Friday night, I attended with my wife, Lisa, the Patsy Cline Holiday Concert at the Sierra Madre Playhouse. It was every bit as good as advertised and better. We had a wonderful time, and if you can still get a ticket, and they're hard to get, you should. It is totally worth it. Just an amazing performance at the Playhouse. That concludes my report. So now we can move on with public comment, and that's going to be public comment from anyone who'd like to share a comment with us on anything that is not on the agenda tonight. And we generally allow 3 minutes per comment, and we'd appreciate if you would supply City Clerk Aguilar with a yellow comment card beforehand.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The city did receive 3 emails on items for public comment for items not on the agenda. The emails from Veronica Vasquez, president of the Sierra Madre Women's Club, resident Barbara Velturo, and resident Brian Abernathy. All 3 emails were forwarded to the city council for consideration and are posted on the city's website. In terms of yellow speaker cards, our first speaker is Pat Kroc.
Good evening, council members, and season's greetings to you all. I am Pat Kroc, chairman of the Sierra Madre Senior Commission, and the commission has authorized me to welcome any new councilmen, and those who are now retiring are welcome to join the Senior Commission at any time. Tomorrow is our annual Senior Commission holiday lunch. We are so excited that we have a full house. We haven't had a full house probably, since the last 3 years. This coming January, we are going full bore with setting up for the Older American Award and Search for the Older American. The reception will be held at the Hart Park House in May. We also are going to be working on our most popular senior bus excursions. The last one was an absolute riot, and I'm sad to say that the chili cook-off is being postponed until the summer because of hip replacement. So thank you and have a great holiday.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, the next speaker is Catherine Addy.
Council members, I just want to thank you. I'm Catherine from the Upper Canyon, and thank you for your service to our city, and especially thank you, outgoing council member and mayor twice, Rochelle Arizmendi. I appreciate all of your services to our city. Tonight, I am just commenting as a member of the library's One Book, One City committee. And I want to thank especially the Sierra Madre Community Foundation for granting our committee $1,000 award that we can pay our speaker next year. And the word is out for February 2023. The One Book, One City program is going to be, the book is called Flying Free by Cecilia Aragon, so everybody can see it here. And the subtitle reads, My Victory Over Fear to Become the First Latina Pilot on the U.S. Aerobatic Team. In her memoir, we learn that her dad is from Chile, her mom is from the Philippines, and that growing up here in the U.S., she overcame prejudice, bullying, and many fears. But after her time as a pilot on the U.S. team, she graduated from Caltech. She also got her PhD and became a university professor in Washington State for the College of Engineering. This is a person who is afraid to speak in public, who gives speeches now, and was afraid to fly, and she was an aerobatic pilot. So this is after being told that girls don't do science. So I would like to also thank the board and the staff of the Sierra Madre Playhouse for their cooperation and collaboration with our programs for this very popular One Book, One City event. As a reminder, every year since about 2007, our One Book, One City committee chooses a book and our whole town gets into reading it together. And not only that, but the library patrons get to enjoy programs for all ages that follow the chosen story's theme. I'm so pleased that these past few years, the Playhouse has allowed the One Book, One City committee to produce staged readings of works that follow along the theme of the book. Allison Kalmus has directed 2 of these plays, with last year's called The Strongest Librarian, since our book selection was The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. You may remember that the most popular staged reading the Playhouse has ever had was in conjunction with the One Book, One City choice called Cafe Vida, based on Father Boyle's Homeboy Industries. It was standing room only that night, and not even the president of the Playhouse was allowed to come in. So we're thankful for this partnership with the library reflects a positive community spirit, one which supports the humanities, our library programs for literature, and our treasured Playhouse for live theater, which brings to life stories we can all relate to. Last, author Cecilia Aragon will come to speak in Sierra Madre on February 11th, and more details are forthcoming, so watch this space, and thank you.
Thank you, Catherine.
Mr. Mayor, the next speaker is Robert Bischoff.
Hi everyone, how are you doing? Rob Bischoff, I'm the Sierra Madre resident and president of Sierra Madre Little League. We at Sierra Madre Little League are proud of our 65-year tradition of serving the youth of Sierra Madre. We are humbled by the partnership that we have with you all at the city, and we appreciate the support along the way, and most importantly, the field usage that we get in joint agreement with our partners at the girls softball and Pony. That agreement, I need to remind you, was created under the guidelines of the Youth Master Plan and the Sierra Madre Park Usage Guidelines. These agreements are based on the creation and continuity of service for our youth 4 to 14, along with language that denotes what audiences in those documents and age groups are to use those city parks as a free asset provided by our city to our organizations. Most recently, the unsanctioned expansion and use of Dapper for Pony at large to additional age groups has introduced a new user type to that field use agreement, and one that does not abide by any residency restrictions, as Sierra Madre Little League does. Doing so not only diminishes the product for both Sierra Madre Little League, but for our local community and the age groups that we have served in partnership for 65 years. This division has created confusion for our collective families, factions in our community, and has weakened the product across Sierra Madre, all while driving our families to neighboring city organizations like Santa Anita Little League, La Cañada Baseball Association, and others. This is happening already, not in the future. It's happening underneath our feet, and it's only getting worse. And it's contradicting the edict of both the Youth Master Plan and the Sierra Madre Park Usage Guidelines that we operate in partnership with the city. While we understand that you cannot mandate how nonprofit organizations run and whom they serve, we can, as stewards of city assets, establish how those assets are used, and if changes are being made, ensure that those changes are provide equitable and priority access for our community and our residents, just as is stated in those documents in which we are mandated. We're looking forward to your guidance on this issue and know that it is timely. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Bischoff.
Mr. Mayor, the next speaker is Russ Meek.
So, evening everyone, happy holidays. Sorry to put a slight damper on what should just be a celebratory night for a wonderful friend joining the team. I just want to back Sierra Madre Little League and let you know that between us, I mean, obviously we handle probably 95% of the youth population in town, and we don't do it perfectly every year, but we survey our population, we survey our families, we want to make sure we're doing a good job for each and every individual kid. And over the last couple of years, Little League and softball have gotten together and tackled the hard issues that were always fought about: field usage, the fact that we don't have residency restrictions, but how do we manage that and make sure we prioritize Sierra Madre's youth first. And we are working out the protocols for an agreement between us to have future generations and future boards make sure that they maintain the field in continuity, that we collaborate in continuity, and that we make sure that every space that's afforded to us by the city is available to Sierra Madre kids first. So we feel like we have an amazing formula for that. I don't know if Rob stated it, but there are now base pegs at Dapper for 3 different age groups. So that's new engineering to a city property. And from what I saw, that wasn't originally the case when that wonderful renovation happened. So the direction of what we understand to be a growing board at Sierra Madre Pony, it sounds great, but the path of it is actually in competition to one of our other institutions, and that's my partner at Heasley Field, with huge fundraising goals, wonderful initiatives we have for player and coach development, and I can't see them taking hits, and I don't think you want to see the division that we're seeing at the schools and with families who are having to choose sides. I don't think this little town, as you said, is necessarily big enough for that. So, as Rob said, we would love, with the new field use agreement, accountability for making sure we're taking care of Sierra Madre kids first. We would enjoy that. We would love some direction on making sure we know our roles for the future to build around, and how to use these facilities, and you know, to continue to follow the youth master plan, which recommends collaboration. So we're coming out of record seasons, unbelievable seasons. We want to continue that, and we want to make sure that 13 to 14-year-old age division is also getting great service. So we're offering that help, and we're not getting response. And now we see the base pegs, so it continues to go down a bad road. So thank you for your guidance. I have a ton of data, some of which I've shared, and would love to study this and form a great plan for the future. Happy holidays.
Thank you, Mr. Meeks.
Mr. Mayor, I have no other speaker cards.
Okay. Did we get any emails?
Yes, those 3 were forwarded to the
Okay,
city
all right.
council.
I think we do have one last
Late entry.
late entry.
Late entry, yes. I apologize for not turning in my card, but just wanted to basically give a quick plug while we've got such a full house. Public safety, police and fire is going to be working in collaboration with the city manager's office in response to the request from last council meeting when we're talking about our strategic plan and the public input. So just a little preface to kind of get everybody to be on the lookout for it. We will be hosting a public safety town hall meeting next month on the 18th to help solicit some information and some feedback that will help drive some of the points we're looking at and the plans and actions and everything we're going to be looking at for our strategic plan. So More to come on that as far as social media output. You'll see some stuff throughout town. But we are looking at the participation from all our stakeholders, residents, business, civic clubs, faith-based, everybody we can absolutely get in to, that makes up the fabric of this community. We want to get the input from everybody. So just want to give a quick plug on that'll be coming. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Bartlett.
Mr. Mayor, there is a request for another speaker, Mary Carney.
Good evening, City Council members. I was absolutely delighted to realize that the Sierra Madre Women's Club was mentioned twice this evening. My name is Mary Carney. I live in up on West Alegria, and I'm a member of the Sierra Madre Women's Club since 2001 actually. I sat on the couch and watched the towers fall and realized I'd lived in town 19 years and knew nobody. So I hauled myself up by the scruff of the neck and went to the Women's Club and said, I'm joining. And it's been a wonderful introduction to the town and a wonderful entree into what's going on and getting to know who's who and what's what. And I wanted to speak a little bit about the Women's Club. It was founded in 1907 after a bridge game where somebody who had gone to the Ebel Club said, oh, I said nobody in Sierra Madre was interested in joining a women's club, and there was like, oh, that's not right. So within 2 weeks, we had a big meeting, and the Women's Club was founded at the end of February, beginning of March in 1907, which was just a few weeks after the incorporation of the city of Sierra Madre. At that time, the residents were 500 in town. That was men, women, and children. And so the Women's Club pretty much did the lead in a lot of civic activities. Over the years, we grew, and in the late 1930s, we had as many as 339 members. During the early years of World War II, the younger members of the club, who were then about the age the original founders of the club had been 30 years earlier, decided they wanted a more lively activity than the more staid members were offering. And 15 ladies split off and founded the Civic Club. And the Civic Club is still going strong today. The Women's Club has been behind almost everything, one way or the other. The Garden Club, the library, civic improvements, sports, offshoots as we got bigger. Today, we have about 85 members. Our membership over the last 20 years that I've been in the club has gone from about 85 to 145, and it's gone back down to about 85. It's like anything else, it rises and falls. We do a huge number of things. In terms of supporting the city, we support the Chamber of Commerce at the Wisteria Festival. We have a table at the Mount Wilson Trail Race for oranges. We do the pre-parade breakfast at the parade start at our Women's Club house. It's a free continental breakfast. And we take part in the Winter Festival. And we also have our prayer breakfast, which I was delighted to see that most of you were able to come to. On the fundraising side of things, I think our president, Veronica Vasquez, mentioned that we're starting a capital campaign, and we have 3 brand new fundraisers this year. We have a murder mystery coming up in January. We have a dine-in movie experience in February, and we're starting our first annual golf tournament at Santa Anita in March. So I would like to see you all participate. Thank you very much, and I hope that you pay attention to our philanthropies. We support about 26 philanthropies and a number of scholarships every year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carney.
Mr. Mayor, there is a speaker card for Samantha Soda.
Hello, good evening. Thank you for having me. My name is Samantha. I've never attended one of these before, so I'll make it quick. I have a concern. I'm here actually on behalf of myself and the people that live on Mountain Trail Avenue. We were all ticketed on November 15th for over $226 each car because we didn't have signs that say no parking overnight. And so I've lived here 3 years, and we were informed that there is notification on the city limits signs, but we don't come up Baldwin, we drive up San Carlos. And this fine print, no one would ever notice unless you actually pull over and read all of the Kiwanis Club or whatever small signs are at the city limit. So I'm here to ask for signage, please. That would be my Christmas miracle wish come true. Please help us make that happen. I appreciate it.
Thank
And
you.
congratulations to all the Rose Parade people.
Mr. Mayor, I believe there are no other speakers.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us to a very special presentation tonight. The Sierra Madre Rose Float Association Royal Court is with us.
Thank you for allowing us to come to speak with you this evening about the Sierra Madre Rose Float. I am Lauren Kong, representing our Royal Court. We will be telling you about our Rose Float. When we are done, Barbie Bevington, our president, and Louise St. Andre, Royal Court committee member, and the Royal Court would be happy to answer any questions. The theme of this year's Rose Parade is turning the corner, and what could be a more fitting image for us all? Chosen by tournament president Amy Wainscott, this theme encourages us to share in the hope and renewal of the coming year. She noted that turning a corner means rising above the past with the help of family, friends, and community. The Sierra Madre Rose Float Association has taken on this challenge and created a float to celebrate a future of fun, family, and community.
Our float this year, Papa's Dream, is a whimsical portrayal of a bear family's day in the park. Designed by animator and caricaturist Greg Dolan, this float celebrates the joys of outdoor recreation and the fun of being together as a family with playful humor. The float features a lively soundtrack designed by association member James Geyer that plays all along Colorado Boulevard through large speakers hidden beneath the flowers.
Papa's Turn will be the 91st float entered by the city of Sierra Madre. As one of only 6 community self-built floats remaining, we take our volunteer legacy seriously. The Sierra Madre Rose Float Association is an all-volunteer organization that requires an enormous float family to create it every year. We hope that you'll join in the decorating fun and stop by the float barn to see our progress as we approach our parade day, which is, remember, on Monday, January 2nd this year.
Our playful float this year is 21 feet high, 17 feet wide, and 43 feet long, so we'll make a statement. It is also fully animated to add to the fun. Papa Bear and his scooter at the front of the float are on different circulating axes, which will make a wild ride down the parade route. There are 3 cubs in the trees, and watch for the one who will be mischievously moving his arm at the beehive. And those bees, the bees near the hive will be moving as well. Look towards the back and you will see various small woodland creatures. And don't forget us. Keep your eyes out for the 6 of us who will be waving on the side of the float down the 5-mile parade route.
This float will be playful, but it will also be beautiful. Decorating the float will be more than 40,000 flowers. The cubs will be decorated with Ming moss covered in cinnamon and with faces detailed with nigella seed, commonly called black caraway. The trees, modeled to resemble California oak, will have their trunks hand-carved to look very real and will be covered in gray and black crushed seeds and topped with hanging floral arrangements. The ground cover will be a sea of beautiful flowers, including sunflowers, bird of paradise, gladiola, blue and white hydrangeas, and of course, roses, lots of roses.
All of this playful beauty is possible thanks to the hundreds of volunteers who come together each year. We exist to represent the city of Sierra Madre, and this float reminds us of all the pleasure of being together and celebrating the natural beauty of our city. We hope to see you at the float barn and on the parade route as we turn the corner into a new and promising year. Thank you.
Will there be another speaker, or is that? Okay. Okay, cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was wonderful. Okay, that brings us to our consent calendar. Madam City Clerk, would you please do the honors?
Yes, thank you. Before the City Council this evening is one item on the consent calendar. It is the consideration of Resolution 22-71 approving certain demands. It is recommended that the City Council approve Resolution 22-71 approving the payment of city warrants in the aggregate amount of $429,881.93. Also, Sierra Madre Library warrants in the aggregate amount of $341,023. And finally, payroll transfer in the amount of $940,962.27. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. So with one item, we'll ask to see if there are any questions.
I just want to clarify that the library warrants are actually $341, not $341,000.
$341.23.
Point taken.
Just that we haven't started our renovation quite yet.
Is there any public comment on the one item in the consent calendar? Hearing none, I'd like to get a motion for approval.
So moved.
Is
Move
there
to approve.
We have two motions for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Consent agenda is approved. Which brings us to our first public hearing, and that is on the Sierra Madre Playhouse Capital Campaign Appeal and General Fund Overview.
Thank you, Mayor. Community Services Manager Rebecca Barone will introduce.
Sierra Madre Playhouse Capital Campaign Appeal and General Fund Overview. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council, and community members. This evening's presentation will cover a brief background on the Sierra Madre Playhouse Capital Campaign Appeal, and then introduce the General Fund and Budgeting Overview, as well as the reserves, target levels, and sources of funding. The City Council had the opportunity at the meeting of October the 25th, 2022, to review and discuss the capital campaign appeal on behalf of the Sierra Madre Playhouse and their Board of Trustees. The Playhouse's appeal is in the amount of a $350,000 request for a grant. And this supports the Playhouse's goal to increase the functionality, accessibility, enjoyment, and of course the safety of its venue. As a result, the City Council requested staff to bring back additional research and provide supplemental information on the potential funding sources, unfunded city projects, our legal counsel's opinion on the use of general fund as a source of funding, the general fund and budgeting overview, and then the impact of the state auditor's risk score. And so now I will present our Director of Finance, Hilary Garola Leon, to provide more information on these aforementioned items.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. So, first we will discuss the general fund overview and budgeting background as requested by Council. So the city has continued to implement a zero-based budgeting where the budget is looked at with a citywide perspective, and also departments are, it holds departments accountable for each budget line item before it's proposed. Efficiencies may be identified, but they're not the main objective of the process. Some background on the last 2 years. During the pandemic, there was uncertainty over the impact on the budget, and the city was proactive by temporarily reducing expenditures in the general fund. By doing this, the city was able to respond to the pandemic as well as assist businesses in town to help them remain open. So how is the city able to temporarily reduce expenditures in the general fund? In this graph, we can see the surplus projected in the last 2 fiscal years and the projections in the current year. In the last 2 fiscal years, the city used existing reserves in the internal service funds, thereby reducing expenditures in the general fund temporarily. Since reserves are not a recurring revenue stream, they can no longer be used. Now in the current year, we can see a more realistic picture of the cost of operations in the general fund. One of Council's question was also regarding the outstanding city projects. This slide shows the city's unfunded projects, which includes the latest estimate received last week for the new improvements to the new public safety building. The total unfunded projects is $8.5 million, and these projects will be prioritized against strategic goals and available funding. Staff also analyzed the general fund reserve projections. So the general fund reserves are projected to be at 68% of expenditures, and that's above the minimum required of 25%. The 25% minimum translates to $6.3 million, and the fund balance above the minimum required is $6.3 million. So we can see the unfunded capital projects is higher than this amount by $2.2 million. Here we can see that Sierra Madre has reserves above the minimum required and has been fiscally prudent in setting aside additional reserves. The state auditor assesses every city annually to determine its fiscal strength and assigns a low risk score to general fund reserves between 50 to 75% of expenditures or anything greater than that. As of the last assessment, the city of Sierra Madre was in the low risk designation. It's important to note that the 25% minimum is for short-term operating reserves, and a higher reserve is necessary to mitigate additional risks, which will be discussed in the following slides. A moderate or high risk score in the general fund reserves category may result in additional audits, negative effect on bond rating or credit or interest rates. The best practice is to stay in the low risk designation. As mentioned in an earlier slide, additional reserves above the 25% are necessary to mitigate additional risks. So many cities have reserves set aside for specific risk areas, and staff is analyzing reserve categories to bring to council for further discussion at a later meeting. But we wanted to include here a list of potential categories to provide a perspective of the reserve levels and the risks in the general fund. Setting reserve categories is not meant to reduce flexibility, but rather for financial planning purposes. Council can reduce or increase funding within categories through a resolution. On the October 25th council meeting, general fund was discussed as a potential funding source for the Sierra Madre Playhouse capital campaign appeal. Council had a question regarding the legality of using general fund as a funding source, and our city attorney's office reviewed the specific circumstances and concluded that using general fund for this grant would likely be an unconstitutional gift. So staff did research an additional funding source, American Rescue Plan Act. The city received ARPA funds in the amount of $2.58 million, and of this amount, assistance to nonprofits was provided, and the Sierra Madre Playhouse was the recipient of a $50,000 grant. In this table, we can see the city's allocation of 2.5 million and the incurred and budgeted expenditures under ARPA fund. So staff recommends using ARPA funds as a match for the library grant. Using ARPA would leave funds available for the other unfunded deferred city projects in the previous slides. This leaves about 56,000 in ARPA funds available for use. Treasury guidance states that an eligible use category is to respond to a public health emergency, including assistance to nonprofits. So two things have to happen. First is the impact is identified, and second is the response. So the impact identified here is that the Playhouse identified the public health impact and the need for HVAC renovations to help reduce the sky. And the response would be that the city may provide funding for those HVAC renovations. ARPA has a requirement for funds to be used by December 2026 and the project to be started by December 2024. The next steps, if using ARPA for this grant, would be to develop a grant agreement for accountability purposes, and the grant would indicate ineligible and eligible expenditures as well as reporting requirements. Funds would be appropriated for the HVAC renovations grant. An award letter showing the city's support would be issued to help the Sierra Madre Playhouse with their grant-seeking efforts. Funds would be dispersed after HVAC project funding is secured, and funds not used for the eligible purpose would be required to be paid back for further allocation. The recommendation today is to provide staff with further direction regarding the Sierra Madre Playhouse capital campaign appeal. That ends our presentation, and we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that very informative report. If I could hold off on questions for a minute, I'd like to give, as we did in the last meeting on this issue, because it's the second time it's come before us, I'd like to give Sierra Madre Playhouse President David Gordon an opportunity to make his pitch, and then we'll subject staff and Mr. Gordon to questions.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, everybody. And hello, Robert, over there on the screen. I'm David Gordon, and I'm honored to be the president of the Sierra Madre Playhouse, and actually acting as CEO as well at the moment. So the Sierra Madre Playhouse is fortunate among theaters in Los Angeles in that it owns its own building. This is quite rare among small theaters. And one of our responsibilities is stewardship of the building. It's 103 years old, and it needs refurbishment, and we have a phased plan to do that. We have spent $70,000 from our own resources and from grants, thank you, the Community Foundation, on phase one. We have put up a new roof, and we have installed new wheelchair-friendly doors. We're now considering phase two, and on behalf of the board, I'm requesting a grant of $250,000 towards the $550,000 cost of now phase two. This is a reduction of $100,000 from my original request, because the mayor at the last meeting felt that he thought that was the right sort of number, and so we have followed his guidance. I have sent a paper to the council which analyzes the staff paper which you have had outlined here, and I feel that there is a way in which you can give the Playhouse $250,000 and also do the matching grant of $350,000 for the library. The library and the Playhouse are the two leading cultural institutions in Sierra Madre. We are natural allies. We work together. As you've heard from Catherine, the lecture for the One Book, One City program will be held at the Playhouse, and we have waived our fee. If the only source of funding for the library was to be the ARPA funds, I would be the first to suggest that those funds should go to the library. We're not going to engage in a gladiatorial combat with the library. over the funds. I love libraries. I love a librarian. I'm going to get married to this librarian, who is the director of the Huntington Library, on January the 3rd. So I can't show my love of libraries any more strongly than that. So the thing is that there is money for both. And the solution is to give the Playhouse $250,000 from the ARPA funds, which is completely legal, give the library the balance, $150,000, and the other $200,000 would come from reserves. I've rounded the figures for easier comprehension. Simple, legal, and prudent. That solution is not to be found in the staff report, although 9 pages long. It is somewhat incomplete. At the November the 8th council meeting, when our request was last discussed, the mayor was enthusiastic in his support for giving $250,000 to the Playhouse, and the 3 other council members present were in varying degrees enthusiastic about finding some way of supporting the Playhouse. One might therefore have expected in the staff report that it would outline various problems and then come up with recommendations for how they could be overcome. That's not the tenor of the report. The report is very negative about every avenue, all kinds of objections to using funds for the Playhouse. I therefore have to go into some detail in the staff report, which we've just had outlined. And the first part does set out the budgeting background. We have found a sort of out-of-place lecture on zero-based budgeting. I'm not sure what the relevance of that is. And that part of the report does make the reasonable point that reserve balances were used and have been drawn down, and that the general fund will be under pressure. But the conclusion of that section of the report could be that the city got through the pandemic in incredibly good shape. Revenues between 2021 and 2022 rose by $1.6 million. Total assets rose by $5.7 million to $228 million. Those figures are from the latest published comprehensive financial report, which is for 2021, page 10. Now, admittedly, it's 2021, but the 2022 report is not yet audited and available. Looking ahead, of course, pressure on the general fund will grow. Some of the economies that were made during COVID have come to an end, as was illustrated on that chart. But big picture is that the main pressure on the general fund in the next few years is going to be dealing with the pay demands from our police force and our fire department, who are represented by very, very strong unions. We have the luxury of our own fire and police, but my goodness, it's going to cost a lot. The only way we're going to be able to deal with it is a public safety tax. So at the moment, the city finances are robust enough for the Playhouse request to be granted. It's a drop in the ocean compared with the future trend of expenditures in the city. What happens if there's a recession? The other side of the coin of not having much sales revenue is that in a recession, revenues for the city remain pretty much stable because they're based on utility tax and on property taxes. Those cities that have a big sales tax are much more vulnerable to recession. We are not. The second part of the report deals with the capital items that the city manager would like to spend but are at present unfunded. Actually, I would have thought the total would be much larger than it is. It's come out to 3.6 million, which actually is quite a small sum compared with reserves of 10 million. And as a citizen, I'm absolutely appalled by some of the items on the list. It seems the city has not found $15,000 for a life-saving CPR compression device. I'm appalled it has not found $250,000 for self-contained breathing apparatus at the end of its 15-year life. Now, while $200,000 for the quite adequate playground in the Mount Wilson Park can wait, I think it's a shame in the city that it has not spent this kind of money on life-saving equipment. There's being conservative with money, there's being fiscally irresponsible by being over-conservative and not spending money when it is needed. The money is there in plain sight in the reserves. The third part of the staff report does discuss the reserves. The general fund balance at the end of 2021 was $9.7 million, an increase of $2.1 million over the previous year, and the chart on the board shows that it has risen yet again to over $10 million. The city's finances are in robust and strong position, enough to use some of those reserves for good causes, life-saving equipment being one of them. The point is made that the reserves are 68% of operating revenues. That puts us in the low-risk category, well surpassing the minimum of 25%. The obvious conclusion of that to me was the Playhouse can dip a toe into those without any danger of affecting our low-risk category. Instead, there's a warning in the paper, oh my goodness, we have to stay in the low-risk designation because we might have an effect on our credit rating. I don't understand why we bother about credit rating. This city is so conservative, it doesn't borrow. The amount of borrowings of this city are incredibly low compared with most other cities. Actually, I could make a very good case for doing some borrowing. We spend at least $50,000 a year on repairing our leaky pipes. You can borrow $1 million today. I checked the rate at 3%. So you spend $30,000 a year on interest. You're spending $50,000 on repairing pipes. You save $20,000 a year. If you wanted to borrow, there's a perfectly good case for doing so, but you don't need to because you have reserves. The fourth part of the staff report says that giving money to the Playhouse would be illegal under Article 16, Section 6 of the California Constitution. Well, that's good to know. Last thing we want is to get illegal funds. But what the report omits is that the council, like all councils, can find ways of spending money on things it wants to do. What it does is to set up a grant program with proper criteria, proper processes, proper monitoring. The kind of programs that have enabled the city to give grants to the Playhouse in the past. It hasn't done so illegally in the past because there was a grant program. Well, to me, it was extraordinary that this very, very long report didn't mention as a possibility that the council could set up a grant program to help non-profits with their capital infrastructure. It's not there in the report. I wonder why. I can't understand why it shouldn't be. It may be that politically it's not the right time to do it and that there isn't the political traction to do so, but surely that possibility should have been mentioned. The staff seem to have made the decision, which should surely be the council's, not to use the reserves in any way at all, which is why the conclusion is, after taking out the city, the library money, there's $56,000 of ARPA money for the Playhouse. Well, look, this is not a sum to sneeze at, $56,000, but it's about a tenth of what is needed to renew our 70-year-old electrical wiring, put in COVID-era air handling, and provide ADA-compliant bathrooms so the special needs visitors don't have to be wheeled across the road to the only place to use bathrooms. We've just submitted a request to the state for $2.5 million.
So you're going to wrap this up pretty soon.
Yes, to widen the lobby, upgrade the rest of the building, and improve all its other facilities. A strong show of support from the city would add the power of to that argument. Our case is an economic development one. We bring people to the downtown. At the Friday performance of Patsy Cline, attended by the mayor, I asked the audience, how many of you have been to a bar or a restaurant before coming here? Nearly half put their hands up. So we are an engine of economic development for the city, badly needed. I think we have made a very good case. Over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon. I'd like to have the council, if you'd be available, and staff would be available for questions about anything in the staff report or in your presentation before we go to public comment. Are there any questions?
Mayor, I just had one quick question. Director Guerrero-Leon, I mean, our report says for the capital purchase total of pending or unfunded capital purchase was 3.5. For some reason, I thought I saw 8 million up there. I just wanted to make sure that I have the correct number. It is 3.5?
It is the 8.5 million.
What is the 8.5?
We received the latest estimate last Friday on the RFP for the B of A building, and that's the latest estimate we have for the building improvements.
Thank you. Can we just put it up on the screen really quickly, please? I thought I saw
And
that.
if I can follow up on that, because that was one of the questions I had. And one of the items that changed on that report was that second line item up there, the public safety remodel. And in the staff report, it was $500,000, and it's increased to $1 million. Can you tell us what the increase of that is?
We received estimates as well, but if you want.
So the public safety remodel, I believe that's for the existing police fire building, and those are both updated estimates for the new public safety building, the Bank of America building, and for the public safety building next door.
And City Manager Reynoso, that's a pretty round number. Was that a full bid, or is that an estimate? Can you expand a little bit more on that? Is that kind of a back of the envelope? It just seems like an awfully a non-precise number, if you will.
We received, thank you, Councilmember Parkers. We received two bids for the RFP for the new public safety building, the Bank of America building. I believe one came in at $3.5 million and one came in at $5 million. And the bid estimates are roughly 10% of the project amount. And so between the $3.5 million and the $5 million, that's where we came up with the $4.5 million. So it's a good conservative estimate. The $1 million for the public safety remodel is based on public works estimates.
Councilmember Ismani, did you have other questions?
No, that was my question.
Okay.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, can I continue on?
Sure, go ahead.
Director Guerrero-Leon, what is our largest source of revenue in the city? Is it property taxes?
Property taxes makes up about 55% of the general fund revenue.
It's 55%. And when we pay our property taxes, how many pennies on the dollar do we get back from the state?
The city of Sierra Madre gets 21 cents out of every dollar of property tax.
21 cents. And has that number changed in the past?
It can change over the years based on state law. The state may change it if they see the need.
And do you know if it changed in the recent past?
I don't have that in front of me tonight.
Okay.
It hasn't changed since I've been on the council. At
Great.
least 8 years.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And I presume we wouldn't expect it to go up.
Yeah, it's going to go down if it does anything.
No. And I think that's what part of my head is. And I'm curious on the items on the list. There, the 8 million of the items. How many of those were part of the pre-pandemic budget?
Pre-pandemic, could you rephrase that.
So I guess what I'm asking is that are there things that we would have spent pre-pandemic that when the pandemic hit, we said, you know what, we're not going to spend on this. We're gonna be conservative in our money, and we're not going to spend on things. And so of that list, I mean, of course, the 5.5 million is not part of it, but of those other ones, are most of them pre-pandemic? Are some of them, can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, some of them, like the vehicles, could be pre-pandemic because during the pandemic, departments were asked to only budget for essential items, and that was part of our process as well. And so some of these, which I would think more the vehicles, because
okay, so the vehicles.
Yeah.
Got it. And was the playground's a new one, right? It's not something that was conceived before the pandemic?
Yes, correct.
Okay, great.
Councilmember Parker, if I may add, only essential items were purchased during the pandemic, so that's why vehicles were held off. But anything else that was necessary for the departments was funded. Only non-essential items were put on hold.
So I'm curious, Mr. City Manager, about the essential items. There's been some discussion about the breathing apparatus, the SCBA's. Those weren't considered essential. Where are they in their life span, and kind of where are they in kind of the replacement queue?
So those items are reaching their useful life, and this is a 5-year capital plan. So those items, again, through our budgeting process, would be prioritized and would most likely be budgeted in the next fiscal year.
Great. And then I have one more question, and thank you all for your patience with this. So we talked about the reserves. I think about the history of the city and some of the budget impacts, and I can think of two events. We've got the Bobcat fire, of course, in the fall of 2020, and then the windstorm, which I want to say members of the council will know better than I do. But what was the type of impact that those had on the budget? And was that kind of a short-term or long-term impact on repairing the city from the damage from the windstorm and defending the city from the Bobcat fire?
Yes, so for the windstorm, there were damages, about $600K in damages of the devastating windstorm. And also, having reserves in place helps us respond to emergencies. For example, we just had the Bobcat incident and also a pandemic, and we had overtime costs as well as equipment costs that we needed to purchase. And having reserves in place provides that cash flow, right? Because federal funding there's a lag in that timing of when we get reimbursed. And not only that, sometimes some of the expenditures are not reimbursable, even if they're needed, based on guidelines from the federal.
Do you happen, and thank you for the number on the windstorm, do you happen to have any ballpark figures on the Bobcat fire? The horseshoes and hand grenades, an approximate?
I know, like, overtime costs, we're looking at, and probably like 100,000 on just like Bobcat. But I know there was also we needed to pay our portion of the Bobcat incident as well. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it was significant.
No worries. I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Those are all my questions.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
I just had maybe a follow-up on what Councilmember Parker's mentioned. He asked if these were budgeted items. I don't believe that any of them were actual. When we're talking about budget, we're talking about our actual annual budget. So it might be semantics, but those items are part of the 5-year capital plan, not necessarily part of the budget. So those were some are new items, some are old items, and some are things that we know are coming within the 5 years. That's my understanding. Am I correct there?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, I want to make sure that we understand what that slide was saying.
Before you move on, I just have a question actually that relates to that. And so there are a number of things that we've talked about over, I don't know, the past year or so, that would be types of items that would be, in my mind, on this list. And it's, primarily, improvements and renovations and things to city assets. I'm thinking primarily off the top of my head about the Lizzie's Market and related buildings. I'm assuming because they're not on this that they actually, those types of things that we have talked about, again, sort of specific to city-owned assets, are part of the budget, and so they're no longer on the unbudgeted list because they've been budgeted.
Correct.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, no, please.
Continue.
So, from what we saw within the staff report, we obviously can't do a gift of funds out of our general fund reserves, but Mr. Gordon brings up an interesting idea of maybe moving some of the funds that we have reserved for ARPA into the general fund, and then that leaves more for ARPA. So I had a conversation with him, and I wanted to understand ARPA a little bit more because we had a good understanding of it when those funds were going to be allocated, and then we kind of stepped away from them, and I went back to the Treasury, and I looked at a fact sheet on the Treasury, and I just want to make sure I have an understanding of what ARPA funds can be used for. From what I recall, we can use, well, I know we can use them for, I have the fact sheet here, but what we did use them for nonprofits, with the initial offering, which we already had done, was to recoup revenue. So if there was lost revenue, things like Little League, the Playhouse, et cetera, could say, or cost of mitigating COVID issues. So those things happened. We did, the Playhouse was a recipient of that. Going forward, if we're looking at nonprofits, and according to this fact sheet, it still has to be mitigation reasons. Like the only outside of mitigation for COVID that I can see is water infrastructure or broadband infrastructure. Other than that, it has to be for COVID reasons. So I don't know if this is a question for Mr. Gordon or whomever. Maybe that's why the staff report was focused on HVAC. If the monies are not used for these specific instances, the money has to be returned to us because it doesn't meet that standard. So maybe I want to hear from Mr. Gordon. Do you have $250,000 in COVID abatement type of issues that, other than the HVAC, or maybe the HVAC cost $250,000 because you wouldn't want to have to repay this money upon an audit, right?
First of all, I'm not an expert on the ARPA criteria, and it could be that the definition we've heard is more narrow than it is. But we have not got an estimate of the air handling side yet. Given the fact that we have to renew the whole thing, I don't think there'll be much change from that. The total cost of phase 2 is 550,000. That's rough order of magnitude. That's to say, this is what the contractor reckons it might cost. It's subject to bids. I said that phase 1 has cost us 70,000. The rough order of magnitude was 50,000. So already we've had to pay 40% more than we thought we were going to have to pay. So I think that there won't be much problem in finding good ways of spending the money that meet the criteria of ARPA.
Well, I'm looking here, phase 2, and this wasn't part of the staff report, but you provided it to us. Phase 2 is complete electric rewiring. I don't see how that would fit within ARPA.
It does, because in order to do the air conditioning, you have to have new wiring. You can't do it otherwise.
Okay, I understand. And the ADA compliant bathrooms and new sewer lines, I'm not sure about that, but.
Arguably, it's to do with healthcare.
Okay.
We'll find a way.
Okay. Well, I don't want to just find a way. I want to make sure we're legal here.
Yeah, we'll be legal.
And we wouldn't want you to have to repay the funds because.
Exactly.
They're standards. And that kind of brings up another question. This probably isn't for you, Mr. Gordon, but within the staff report, it said the staff have verified that with the grantor that the ARPA funds may be used for the library matching grant. Now, I'm trying to figure out how that fits in. I'm not trying to take that away from the library because we're going to fund that thing regardless. But how does that fit in with ARPA?
one of the eligible uses is revenue loss, and revenue loss, you can use it for government services. So in that case, you can use it for projects for government services. And one of the projects would be the library. And even in the FAQ Treasury, it says that we can use it for the matching grant, match portion, and unless the grantor says you can't. And that's why we took that step and asked the grantor.
Yeah, it does say the grantor has approved it for that. Okay. I think that's all I have for now, but Councilman Creeds.
No, my questions were answered.
One quick question. We have a 25% minimum reserve, okay? That was established just a few years ago. When I came on the council, it was 50%. And I fought hard to keep it at 50%, but I lost that one because our new city manager, Gabe England, assured us that this was the kind of the status quo in city government, that 25% is considered to be reasonable and safe, correct? Where are we at now? If the chart you put up, I think it said 70% or something close to 68%?
So 25% is the minimum for short-term operating reserves.
Right.
And additional, in addition to the 25% is usually for reserves to mitigate additional risks or specific to that organization. And that's why we show this slide right here.
So at 50%, you're double what the minimum risk, the low risk, the minimum risk standard is. 50%, we're double. What I'm getting at here is at 25%, we're okay according to city government, city finance, the conventional wisdom. But at 50%, we're double okay, right?
25% is GFOA recommended for short-term operating cash flow for emergencies, right? And then every organization, they analyze their own organization risks. For example, some may be heavy in sales tax rather than property tax, so they would want to set up more reserves, not just the 25. 25 is like to keep us in operating in a short term in case there's an emergency. Anything above that is to mitigate risks.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
While we're on that slide, there's two questions. One, I didn't quite know what compensated absences were, just for information purposes.
Compensated absences are the leave accruals from employees, and whenever they cash out or they leave the city, it can be significant to the budget.
Got it. And then you would put on the left-hand side of the slide the range in which the auditor deems the city to be in low risk if they are in that range. I assume that range that you're showing is, doesn't dip down to the 25. So, in addition to the mayor's point about, being twice at 50, but that 50 seems to be the floor for the designation of low risk. Is that correct?
Yes, so this is why I like to show it in a graph, because the minimum for short-term operating versus, the state auditor says low risk should be 50 to 75 or greater. And that shows to prove that the 25 is not low risk. It's just minimum to get us by in a short-term operating.
Got it. Thank you.
Can I follow up on that?
Real quick, Mayor Pro Tem's going to go first, Robert.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Councilman Parker. So, I had for full disclosure, I had a great conversation with Mr. Gordon, I think it was yesterday, and he was very candid and open about the finances of the Playhouse. So, we're up here as the protector of the purse, so I want to make sure we're protecting the purse, but, and I can get into comments, this is a question. I thought I read within the U.S. Treasury Department that ARPA funds can be used on a loan basis as well. And this might be, I don't know if this is a Garagosian question, City Attorney Garagosian, but my thought is, if some funds might flow to the Playhouse, it might be in the best interest of the purse to be a forgivable loan with potentially a lien on the property. Since you're in a position where you own the property, we could put a lien on the property with a forgivable loan over a certain amount of time, and that kind of helps the city and insulates us from this money kind of poof and going away if the Playhouse doesn't exist in the future. I don't want that to happen. Nobody here does. But I'm just talking real here, right? Because that's what we're here to do. So maybe this is a question for the city attorney. Are we able to use these funds in a loan fashion, and maybe a forgivable loan over a certain amount of time?
That's correct. It can be structured as a loan instead of a grant.
Okay. Thank you.
Presumably the same use requirements, though, either way?
The same use requirements, correct.
And we would structure the cost of the loan, the interest, that would be our discretion.
Right.
It could be interest-free and it could be forgiven, right?
It could be forgiven by future council at some future date.
We can't write that in.
I'd have to read the regulations to see exactly how a loan would have to be structured, the details of it, but as I understand it, a loan option is possible. And like any loan, it can be forgiven, is my understanding.
Okay, thank you.
I have so many questions about the proposal, but do we want to talk about it now, or do we
Well,
want
if
to
there are
wait?
questions, I think we should talk.
Mr.
Question.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I did have.
Councilmember Parkhurst, go ahead.
So Director Guerrero-Leon, on the slide 10, the one just after the chart, you said some of the impacts of not meeting that 50% are additional audits and a negative effect on bond rating and interest rates. So since we don't, I don't think we've borrowed any money, at least my last look at the budget, we haven't borrowed any money. So is that a big impact, is question one. And question two, can you tell us a little bit about the additional audits we'd be subject to, and kind of just the general, how being below 50% would impact your ability to do your job? I guess there's three questions buried in there.
Could you repeat question one?
He heard.
Councilmember Parkhurst, could you repeat question one, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Question one is interest rates. Since we don't borrow any money, is that really an issue for us? Does that have any impact? And question two is audits. Can you tell me a little bit about the audits we would have? And then question three is just kind of general. What kind of difficulty does being below 50% create for the finance department?
So for the credit bond rating and interest rates, we don't currently have obligations out there, but in the long term, we may, right? Looking at our unfunded projects versus our reserve levels available for above the 25%, it was greater than that balance of 2.2 million. You can see here. So it would just, at this moment, we don't have, but it's good to have low risk in order to, in the future, right?
If I may add, Mayor, in the general fund may not be carrying any debt, but the water department did have a loan, and because we were in good financial standing, we were able to refinance that loan at a lower rate. So we do carry some debt, just not in the general fund. It's in the utilities department.
Any other questions?
And the second question about the audits. So the state auditor would conduct audits, additional audits, and say, you know, these are the risk areas. They actually have an audit report. They have it in their dashboard, and they have the risk areas that the cities that have been audited, and then the council and management would have to respond to those audit and recommendations. As far as the finance department, I think it's more to focus on how it would affect the city rather than the finance department in our operations. And that concludes.
Okay. I think we're done with questions. Thank you for your patience, and thank you to the audience for patience. Now I'd like to open this up for public comment. If you would like to comment on this agenda item, please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. Where did city Madam City Clerk, go.
Mr. Mayor, there were 5 speaker cards, and the first speaker is Diana Sands.
Good evening. Actually, it's Diane Sands. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, Council. I am a member of the Board of Trustees for the library and also the Vice President of the Historical Preservation Society. I want to preface my remarks by saying I am a big proponent of community theater. As a young adult growing up back east, I worked for many years for a community theater. I was a makeup designer, an artist, a stage manager, a house manager. I acted, I directed, so I was invested in it. I'm well versed in it and supportive of community theater. However, as valued as the Playhouse is as a cultural asset to our town, it is nevertheless not owned by the city of Sierra Madre, but the public library is. It has been stated that money given to the Playhouse by the city will come out of the ARPA funds. $334 and $334,605, the number that's been floating around, was given to us as matching funds by the California State Library Building Forward Infrastructure Grant. This was in addition to the $10 million that was given to us. If funds are taken away from the ARPA money, funds designated for the library for that matching grant, it means that matching funds are taken away. It means that our local library will lose $2 for every $1 you take out of ARPA. If you take $250,000 out of the library ARPA money, we will lose $250,000 of the matching fund money. We go from the total of a possible $669,210 for the renovation of our library down to $169,210. We lose $500,000 for the renovation of our library. The library loses not only the $250,000, but the $250,000 matching. If you think that the $10 million grant is enough to keep us going to redo the library, you are wrong. It's not cheap, it's very expensive. It's going to take every dime that we can get. We love the Playhouse, it's well respected, but we love the library too. You don't have to pay to go to the library. You don't have to pay to read a book, to watch a movie, to educate yourself. Your library provides a safe space to research, to learn, to share, to grow, and they don't even charge fines for late books. As the towns say around town, we love our library, so I ask you, please do not take ARPA funds away from the library matching. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sands.
Mr. Mayor, the next speaker is Jeff Lapidus.
Good evening, I'm Jeff Lapidus, resident of Sierra Madre, and I just wanted to, my opinion is that the city has to pay for city assets to maintain them before we assist non-government organizations. And if there was an overflow of money in our coffers, I may have been open to funding other things. But when I see our town museum with a tarp over the roof that has been there for literally years, because the city has not, wasn't even on the chart there for unfunded projects for the city. And this has been festering for years. And this is the museum of Sierra Madre, Lizzie's Trail Inn. And I also feel very uncomfortable with putting the library and the Playhouse on a level playing field, because the city owns the library. The Playhouse is a business. They are not equal partners in the way that they should be funded. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, the next speaker is Leslie Ziff.
Mr. Mayor, City Council. I am a resident of Sierra Madre, and I am the president of the Historical Society. I just want to, my concern is, as Jeff Lapidus stated, you own the museums, both of them, the Richardson House and Lizzie's Trail Inn. The Richardson House needs the back area redone and fixed, and Lizzie's desperately needs a new roof, or at least a fixed roof. So I want just to remind you that with the library and the museums, the city owns those. That is your responsibility. And I'm just hoping that that is a priority for you and the city, that that should come first. And far be it from me to take any money away from the Playhouse. I'm a director, and I am very much involved with drama and music, but I do think that because the city owns the museums and that we have a vested interest with the library, that those things need to come first in the budgets, and then the Playhouse and other things need to come after that. And with that, I invite you all to the open house at the museums this Saturday from 12 to 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ziff.
Mr. Mayor, the next speaker is Pamela Winters.
Mayor Goss, council members, and fellow attendees. I'm Pamela Winters, and I'm speaking today on behalf of myself as an employee of the Playhouse, but also a 26-year resident of Sierra Madre. I'd like to read a letter that's dated September 30th, 1998, to George Agnetti, president of Sierra Madre Community Playhouse. The primary purpose of this letter is to congratulate you, the Board of Directors, and your personnel on the recent renovation and completion of the Sierra Madre Community Playhouse. As a result of your vision, dedication, and hard work, our Foothill community once again has a beautiful community theater that truly enhances local cultural opportunities. In addition, the Playhouse provides an excellent arena for local artists to display their many talents and provides a rare and valuable resource for a community of our size. As you know, the Sierra Madre Community Playhouse has received wide support from community leaders, residents, and surrounding communities. Your efforts and dedication are truly appreciated and will certainly be enjoyed by this community for many years to come. On behalf of the Sierra Madre City Council and myself, please accept our sincere appreciation for bringing a community theater back to Sierra Madre. In closing, the City Council applauds your efforts and, as resources allow, welcome the opportunity to assist, promote, and develop the Sierra Madre Community Playhouse. Sincerely, John Davidson, City Administrator. Less than 2 years later, in May of 2000, those same volunteers embarked upon an ambitious effort to raise more than $20,000 for the down payment and escrow fees to purchase the building. And in just 6 weeks, nearly $25,000 in donations were received from 400 individuals, businesses, and community organizations. As part of the ribbon-cutting ceremony when the purchase was complete, Sierra Madre city officials were recognized, and the building, the Playhouse, was, and I will quote, dedicated to the residents of Sierra Madre and to all of our supporters and friends. During the pandemic, the marquee was a message board of hope, resiliency, and recognition. It was a beacon on the boulevard, and it still is. While the Playhouse may not be a city-owned building, it is a landmark building, a gathering place in the city of Sierra Madre. And we ask for your support to help us keep this landmark on the boulevard. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Winters.
Mr. Mayor, the next speaker is Eileen Walker.
Good evening, Mayor Goss, councilors, and fellow community members. My name is Eileen Walker. I live on Ramona Avenue, and as I've mentioned previously, I'm a member of the board of the Sierra Madre Playhouse. Tonight, I am commenting on the Sierra Madre Playhouse funding request. So, as I noted a few weeks ago, my husband and I moved to Sierra Madre after we retired. But before that, I was CEO of the Association of University Research Parks, and that's otherwise known as AURP. And that's an association of about 150 major universities and research labs across the globe. Some of our members were University of California, Stanford, Los Alamos, Boston University, and one of my favorite members was the King Abdullah University of Science and Technology in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. One of my jobs at AURP was to bring together teams to advise cities and universities as they engaged in an idea known as creative placemaking. That idea includes the forming of partnerships across sectors to create places where people naturally want to be, where learning and creative self-expression can occur, and where dynamic energy creates powerful economic opportunities. I learned that no one sector can effectively establish or sustain a creative place. It takes the broad range of private, nonprofit, and governmental entities to make them happen. An important element of any truly creative place is involvement of the arts, and especially theater, which involves so many different artistic endeavors. And I don't know if everybody knows, but our marquee has been recognized by the Museum of Neon Art. So there's quite a number of different artistic endeavors that are involved in theater. But to enable a creative place to happen, partners from public, private, nonprofit, and community sectors strategically shape the physical and social character of a town or city around arts, cultural activities, learning, and certainly libraries, because we are huge supporters of our library. But tonight, we have the opportunity to partner to create the future of Sierra Madre. Will this future be as a vibrant, creative place, one to which people gravitate because of the dynamic energy that's present? By supporting the Playhouse and stepping up to be the cornerstone of our capital campaign, the city of Sierra Madre can participate in a partnership that is the essence of creative placemaking, one that supports artistic expression and community well-being, one that rejuvenates our Playhouse, animates our public spaces, contributes to local business viability, and brings people together to partake of that dynamic energy. I urge you to support the capital campaign, and I thank you in advance for all that you do to make sure Sierra Madre's future is one of being a truly creative and vibrant place. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Walker.
Mr. Mayor, the next speaker is Robert Stockley.
Good evening, Mayor Goss, Mayor in Waiting Garcia, and council members. Previous speakers have talked about the importance of the council's role in supporting the library, and I think that's well established. And the rare opportunity to use someone else's money, in this case the states and the federal governments, to match the state's grant. So I want to put some context into why I think the library is so important. There are over 8,200 registered users. I think that means library card holders. And if you put that, give you a context to that, that would be equivalent to 75% of the people in this town. There were over 42,000 visits in the last fiscal year to the library. 42,000 visits. Of the programs that were attended, over 9,800 people, children, adults, seniors, attended those events in that last fiscal year. So I think there's no question about how important the library is and what the responsibility is. The last thing I would say to you is, a few years ago, the council made the decision that this was the way we were going to go, that we were going to renovate the building, and made that commitment. And through the largesse of Assemblyman Holden and our state senator and our good fortune, we got $10 million towards that project. I believe that as you get into the project, you're going to find the costs are indeterminate at this point. That once you tear into a wall, you find out what you're going to have to do. And you're going to have issues with asbestos. You're going to have issues with reconfiguring the layout of the building so you're more efficient with your heating and air conditioning. So I would go after every single dollar you can, because I think the reality is we're not going to be getting federal grants earmarked as we have in the past. We were lucky to do that decades ago. I don't think that's a reality anymore. And the likelihood that the state's going to come in with more money, I think, is also probably not possible. So I think you are looking at having to dip into those reserves to be able to finish your project. So I encourage you to take the money from the state and the federal government with a big smile.
Mr. Mayor, we have no other speaker cards for this topic. We did have one email that was sent in from Tony Buckner that was forwarded to the city council and posted on the city's website.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the patience. For everyone who's here for other items besides the Playhouse, we know it is an auspicious evening, and we'll try to be as efficient about this discussion as we possibly can. Anyone want to take a stab at this? City Attorney Girgosian.
So if I could clarify regarding the Mayor Pro Tem's suggestion, I read through the Treasury regulations very quickly right now, and it does state that it can be structured as a loan. The loan can be forgiven. It's silent as to interest. It's silent as to whether you can secure it against the property. So the details of structuring the loan, I suspect, are going to be left to the city to negotiate with the Playhouse if the city council chooses to move in that direction.
Okay, thank you.
The question's already been asked, but they're still bound to the reasons for using ARPA funds.
That's correct.
Yep.
Just on that topic, can you expand a little bit on what you think the benefit, I guess both for the Playhouse and the city, would be on the loan structure versus grant? And I guess, and as a follow-up, sorry, just because it's kind of related, in terms of the security, if there was not going to be interest or minimal interest, and the idea would be that it would be forgiven, I'm not entirely sure what obligation the security would secure.
Well, in the unfortunate situation that if we do agree to fund some of this project and the Playhouse goes out of business, that'd be a very unfortunate situation. Since Mr. Gordon said that the Playhouse owns the property, we could have, if that unfortunate situation occurred, we could have some kind of guarantee on our funds and returning of our funds within a certain amount of time. But I think the spirit would be to be a grant. But we want to make sure that if this is something we're going to ponder, we would make sure that we secured the funds in case of some type of closing of the doors of the Playhouse.
Okay.
That's the rationale.
Yeah. I guess that wasn't high on my list of risks, but yeah, I mean, that's an interesting point. I mean, I hadn't thought of it that way, and I guess in that situation, you wouldn't set it up out the gate to be forgiven, because in that situation, you actually wouldn't forgive it, and then you would have the buildings as security against repayment. Okay.
Other thoughts? Councilmember Parkhurst, do you have any thoughts on this?
Sure, I'll weigh in. You know, I struggle with this a lot. I was there at opening night at the Patsy Cline concert, and it was phenomenal. We've done a really good job. I've been to other events at the Playhouse. You know, we put off many of these capital expenses because of the pandemic, and we've got some things. We've got life safety things on that list in there, and it gets me. It makes me nervous, to be honest, on this. And I've wrestled really a whole lot with this, and I don't have clear guidance on it. I think, from my perspective, we are to fund the number that I'm most comfortable with is in the $50,000 range. I know Mr. Gordon has asked for $350 and lowered it to $250, but I just look at all these other things. I went down to the fire department to try to educate myself to see the status of the equipment and to look at the Lucas unit that Mr. Gordon had mentioned, and there's a lot of things there that can really help and save lives. And we have a history in the city, not this council, not the previous council, but of kicking the can down the road on some capital investments. And I just want to make sure that if we go forward with this, we've got $8 million worth of capital investments, that we really think long and hard on how we do that, how we prioritize that. Because one of the things that I'm most proud of the last council and this council is really focusing on infrastructure and safety in the city. And I think that's kind of our first charge in it. And so, so that's where my mind is tonight on this.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Parker. Responses?
I mean, I guess I am somewhat in line. I was going to say, and Councilmember Parker's got there eventually, but I mean, this isn't a matter of just postponing capital improvements during the pandemic. I mean, the city has a history of postponing major capital improvements for decades, and I mean, we've come to see that in many ways, and many of those things, for example, the rest of the water system, is not on that list, although obviously that is something that we are doing on an ongoing basis, because most of those pipes that are still in the queue, are well past their useful life, and those, to me, those are the basic foundations of what the city is here to provide. I mean, water, safety, and while there's no question in my mind that I am a huge supporter of the Playhouse, the arts, all of the benefits that I completely agree, the benefits that the Playhouse brings to the city in terms of people and business and exposure and all of those things. To me, because we are still backfilling so much of our core purpose as a city, it just, again, I also have a lot of trepidation in spending funds when we have a laundry list even beyond the $8+ million of things that really we have not been doing over time. And I feel like it's our responsibility to make sure those items get taken care of, so that we're not continuing to pass down that legacy to future councils and future cities. So yeah, I think that the fact that we have a balance in the ARPA fund, to me, seems fitting. That seems to me the right amount, to the extent that we can come up with other funding sources that sort of fit into the that we're allowed to use for this purpose, as well as make sense to dedicate to this purpose as opposed to other priorities of the city. I think I would be in favor of that, but I know that a lot of effort has been put into that, so I wouldn't expect that, but I would be open to that if there were other opportunities.
Yeah, so, Mr. Mayor, a lot of what has been said by Councilman Parkhurst and Creeves echoes with me. Water is necessary, infrastructure is necessary, and public safety is necessary, and all water and infrastructure go back to public safety. That's not all that we do here as a council. I understand that. We do try to enhance the quality of life best we can, which does include the arts. And I do see what the Playhouse does bring to the business district. I do see that these residents, us, need a business district. The business district is in part thriving because people from out of town come to the Playhouse and then they spend their dollars within the business district. Therefore, we have restaurants that we can go to, probably wouldn't survive just on residents alone. So I do see the value there. That's the tangible value. The intangible values, they're hard to put a dollar on, but they are there as well. As we have a community that embraces the arts, people want to live here, and that probably helps bolster up home values and things of that nature as well. But then on the other hand, we've got a 5-year capital improvement plan, and I want to structure a 50-year capital improvement plan even 100 years as we kind of go forward when we're all gone, that the city is in a good place. Kind of with our revenue structure, I don't see us building up reserves like we have in the past, given that the prices of labor and goods go up more than our revenue stream goes up. So I don't see that happening anytime soon. So I struggle with this, but I do understand that the ARPA funds were meant for this. For one of the purposes is to help nonprofits. So I'm not a fan of dipping into reserves and kind of shuffling cards around in order to get keep more in the ARPA funds. Obviously, we're going to fund this. I'm not going to say obviously, but as this one council person, we should maximize our free money vis-a-vis the library. But I'm open to the ARPA funds because that's what they were meant for. They were federal dollars, and not after looking at the library, right? So there are federal dollars available for these purposes. They have very special purposes, and I think if the Playhouse can justify part of the HVAC can be there, then I feel comfortable somewhere in the $50,000 range as well.
So, at the last time this was agendized, I did ask for the capital projects plan because I wanted to get a better understanding as to what our other unfunded obligations were in the upcoming years. And the 3.5 was a surprise, but the 8.5 is probably more of where I thought it would be. And what I also said at last council meeting is that I think I'd hate to debate against Mr. Gordon because his points are so strongly messaged and very, very valid points. It's hard to argue the fact that, yes, just like Mayor Pro Tem said, that the Playhouse does bring business into our business districts, and there's a benefit there, and it is an icon to our city. I am stuck with how conservative we are and how we have budgeted over the past, and I think one of the questions we've always asked as a council is, are we reserving too much? And I think that's also a point that was made is, maybe we have been a little too conservative, that we really need to roll out these dollars to make sure that our capital projects are funded. I'm also aware of the fact that this should not be an issue that divides our community. And when I'm hearing other groups that are asking for dollars, how can we justify giving one group a larger chunk of dollars versus another one? And then the comment about assets that the city owns. And it's true, we have been looking at that tarp over there at the museums at Lizzie's Trail and such. So all of that being said, I felt very comfortable that we would be funding the Playhouse. The $56,000 of what's remaining in the ARPA is where I was sitting. I think that the library should know that dollars will be matched for the grant dollars, especially as I said it to the face of the state librarian yesterday. But we have to look at the city as a whole, and as we're looking at where our priorities are, how we fund our services, how we fund our infrastructure, and ensuring that we do our best to guard, as Mayor Pro Tem said, the purse of the city. So I'm in support of $56,000. We're around the $50,000 range if that's where the city is the city council members are sitting with funding for this Playhouse.
Okay. Well, it looks like we have consensus then. Not to take up much time, but I stake out a position in the last meeting, and $250,000. I did it and I still have the view that we should be at higher at $50,000. I think that's not going to pass tonight. And the basic point I had was that This is a cultural institution that is very valuable, and you really don't know how valuable it is until it's not there. And we could lose it, and we could lose it. They're looking at a $1 to $2 million capital campaign. And so putting down 50,000, I think, is a statement. I think other potential contributors at higher levels of government and in the philanthropic and charitable arenas may see that as enough of a stake. Okay, well, the city's serious, so maybe we ought to kick in too. But maybe it isn't. I don't know. I was thinking the 250 down from what Mr. Gordon had suggested at 350 as a starting point. I was hoping we might end up with something in the six figures as a statement to other potential contributors. I have no problem with taking $50,000 or $100,000 out of our reserves. We have plenty of money in our reserves. I spent the last 8 years and 8 months on this council with my colleague here, Councilmember Arizmendi, minding those conservative fiscal policies. I was one of the council members that pushed for zero-based budgeting. Heck, I ran for re-election on it in 2018. So I remember running in 2012. One of the debates, I threw a line out. I said, you know, because it was a discussion issue about fiscal issues, and I said, you know, I'm actually an American who's of German ancestry and Scots-Irish ancestry. I'm as tight as the bark on a tree. Ask my wife. So you don't have to talk to me about fiscal prudence and conservatism. But my mom also taught me that you save for a reason. You save for a rainy day, but you save for a reason because the rainy day comes. And I feel like this institution is worth a little more than $56,400. But I don't think that's going to fly, and I'm in I have complete respect for my colleagues here. I know they all want the best for our city, for the Playhouse. I know we're reasonable people, and we just disagree on this one. So I've had my piece. Does anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion to fund the Sierra Madre Playhouse at the amount of $56,000.
Even?
$56,000 and $56,480.
Okay. Okay. Is there a second?
Maybe friendly amendment, it's coming from ARPA funds.
Yes.
I think that's important to state.
Yes.
Okay.
Accept the friendly amendment.
Is that your second?
That's my second.
Go ahead and second.
Go ahead.
Okay, we have a second from Councilman Parkhurst. Okay, can we restate that? We're supporting,
The motion to fund the capital campaign for Sierra Madre Playhouse from the ARPA funding at $56,480.
okay, we have a motion at second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, onward we go. We're pedaling as fast as we can, folks. Correction to the fiscal year 2022-2023 fee schedule. Want to take a break? Okay, folks, we're going to take
Oh.
I'm sorry, ma'am. We're going to take a 5-minute break, and we'll come back at 7:45. Yeah.
right?
Councilmember Krebs, where are you? We'll give her a minute.
Those are fast. Huh?
Are we having a presentation on this? Fixing the fees? What's a public hearing?
Yeah. And these two are fast, I think. It's 11 o'clock for Councilman Parker.
Okay, we're back. Thank you for your patience. And let's move on to the next agenda item. Refresh my memory. Oh. Correction of the fiscal year 2022-23 fee schedule.
Mayor, I'd like to introduce Finance Manager Satnam Rate.
Hi, good evening, Mayor Goss and council members. On July 14th, we all met here had a public hearing regarding various budget-related resolutions, including a resolution number 2230, which adopted our schedule of fees for the fiscal year. Since the approval of that schedule of fees, staff has identified an error in the approved non-residential variable sewer rate. The rate was erroneously noted as 37 cents. The correct rate should have been 73 cents. Staff recommends that the fee schedule be corrected to reflect the rate as approved by the most recent water rate study and or leave the rate unchanged. This concludes the report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Thank you for your report. I know it says in the report, but just for the purposes of the audience and the viewers at home, just wanted to clarify that if the rate was corrected, that it would apply only going forward and would not be retroactively applied to charges back to June, correct?
That is correct. We've already billed up to through November.
Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you for your report. That concludes our questions. I'd like to open this up. It is a public hearing. I'd like to open the public hearing up for public comment. Okay, hearing none, I'll bring it back to the council. Okay. Pretty slam dunk, I think.
Yeah, I'll just note, I'm glad it was caught, you know, the impact, hopefully was not too detrimental to our budget, but, no doubt that we need to support the change. I don't know if anyone else has a comment, but I'd be more than happy to make a motion to approve the amendment of the fiscal year 2022-2023 fee schedule for the non-residential variable sewer rate as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay,
Councilmember Randy, you're going out and doing the motions on everything tonight. You're going out strong.
Am I moving too fast? Is that?
No, I did not say that. I think I like it.
Okay, we have a motion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. And that brings us to the first discussion item, which is a consideration of Resolution 22-72.
Mayor, Assistant City Manager Miguel Hernandez will be presenting.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Before you today is consideration of Resolution 2272, adopting the memorandums of understanding for the respective bargaining groups, the Classified Employees Association, Professional Firefighters Association, and Police Association. Over the course of several months, the city's negotiating team met with the respective unions to discuss terms and conditions of employment related to medical insurance. The city's medical insurance for employees has not been updated for over 15 years, and with medical premiums increasing 5 to 15% just for 2023, this item came up for consideration for the year 2023 and 2024 calendar year. Additionally, the city's negotiating team discussed with the Classified Employees Association procedural language related to performance evaluations, annual performance evaluations, and discussed with the professional firefighters a paramedic license incentive. The City Council may adopt Resolution 2272 approving the memorandums of understanding between the Classified Employees Association, Professional Firefighters Association, Police Association, or direct staff to return with additional information. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for that report. Are there any questions?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Parkhurst?
Director Hernandez, what does the paramedic bonus, how does that compare to other cities, other comparable cities in the San Gabriel Valley?
We conducted a survey of some of the cities in the area. Some of the like cities that we compare our city to is South Pasadena and San Marino. Both those cities have a percentage that's on top of their base salary. South Pasadena has a 5% of their base salary for the paramedic incentive. San Marino has a 10% on top of their base salary for the paramedic incentive. And it's pretty standard across the LA County area. Most of these cities will have an incentive for paramedic license, as it is required to maintain a paramedic license every 2 years. Additionally, we also have out-of-rank personnel that are not functioning as a paramedic. They may be an engineer or a captain, and incentivizing them to maintain their paramedic license is a huge benefit to the city, and having additional paramedic staff on scene if the need should be there.
And so with the 5% to the 10%, how does that compare to the 300 and 200 that we've got in our staff report here?
Well, the 300 and 200 is a start, is something to start with. The percentage obviously is going to be a higher amount with the other cities that pay their salaries. Their salaries are a little bit higher than ours, so it's going to definitely increase for those respective cities, the employees' salaries. So it does make a difference if it's a percentage-based incentive than a flat rate stipend.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, hearing none. Thank you. I'll open this up for public comment now. Seeing none. Okay. What's your pleasure, folks?
Mr. Mayor, I think it's great that we, not everybody had an opener, but we were able to get the three groups together to get parity within the medical insurance premium issue. I think that's super important to get them up to the levels where they ought to be for employee retention. And I think all three of these issues are good for employee retention, so I'm all for it.
I agree with that.
I'd like to highlight what Assistant City Manager Hernandez mentioned about how this is a start. I mean, I think we all know that the compensation that the city is able to pay its public safety employees is not perhaps where they would like it to be, and it's obviously below market. And so that is something we're very aware of on this council, and focused on retention as well as we can, given those parameters. I mean, I think it's been discussed at length today, the limits that we have on our fiscal abilities. So I do like that this is thought of as a start, and I want our public safety employees to know that this is something that we pay attention to, and we're happy to give this start, and that we'll be talking about these types of benefits hopefully to demonstrate our interest in retaining and attracting talent to our city.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Parkhurst.
Yeah, I'll echo what Mayor Pro Tem and Councilmember Creeps said as well. I also want to acknowledge the leadership of the city manager and director of HR in bringing this forward. It wasn't something that we had to do. It's a tough challenge, and I also like to thank the three unions for working with us on it, or working with staff on it, and coming forward on it. It's a tough a trade-off when you're looking at money in your pocket versus insurance benefits, and it's not a surprise to me that it's gone 15 years since we've increased it. And I think this is a really good increase. It puts us in line with other cities in San Gabriel Valley. Matches us just about at Sierra Madre and San Marino. I think that's really good. I do think on the paramedic incentive that may be one that we may want to revisit in the not too distant future. That one it seems a little bit not aligned. It's a fabulous step forward, but I think, and I don't think it would be much to come back and revisit that one. But I'm in full support of everything, and I also really like, one of the things I love about being a small business is that I don't have to do performance evaluations. Those can take a lot of time to do them really well, and I have complete sympathy for all the managers in the city that have to do them all. This gives them a little nudge that I think sometimes I needed to try to get those things done. And so I think all three of the changes we've got for all three of the unions I'm in full support of them.
Would you like to make a motion to that effect?
Sure. I will move that we adopt Resolution 2272 with the consideration of reconsidering the paramedic incentive bonus sometime in 2023.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
A second.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. And that takes us to, yay. Consideration of Resolution 22-70. Madam City Clerk,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
the honors here.
Thank you. This evening, the City Council is being asked to consider Resolution 22-70, and that is a resolution of the City Council reciting the facts of the general municipal election held last month on November 8th, 2022, and declaring the results and such matters as provided by law. The City of Sierra Madre has 8,473 voters. A total of 5,754 ballots were cast in last month's election. Of the Sierra Madre voters were asked to consider 3 seats on the City Council and a ballot measure, Measure HR. Ballot Measure HR asked voters, shall the general plan land use designation change from institutional to hillside, and the zoning designation change from institutional to hillside management for the Madre Dolorosa property. Of the 3 seats, Mayor Pro Tem Edward Garcia was completing a partial term for a seat vacated by Councilmember Denise Del Mar in 2019. That term was for 2 years. Mayor Jean Goss and Councilmember Rachel Arizmendi were completing their second full term on the City Council. Both Mayor Jean Goss and Mayor Pro Tem Garcia ran as incumbents, and Councilmember Rachel Arizmendi chose not to run for another term. The results of the election are as follows. Of the 3 seats, there were 5 candidates running for those 3 seats. Colin Barr received 2,280 votes. Edward Garcia received 2,708 votes. Jean Goss, 2,752 votes. Chris Lowe received 2,862 votes. And Christine Moran received 1,767 votes. Measure HR. Of the 5,754 ballots cast, the number of yes votes was 2,216, and the no votes were 3,185. Staff's recommendation is that the City Council adopt Resolution 22-70, reciting the facts of the general municipal election. And that concludes my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. I don't know if this is going to require much discussion. Who'd like to make a motion?
Yes, I will not contest
Mr. Mayor?
the election.
Councilmember Parkhurst.
Do we need to open it up to public comment, or is this one that's not, do we not have to open it up to public comment?
I suppose you're right about that. You're right about that. You got me. I'll open this up to
Well,
public comment.
I beat our Madam Clerk on it. I saw her moving her mic.
Okay, no public comment. You caught me. Good. We got to do this right. Okay. Now is there a motion?
I move to approve resolution number 22-70 reciting the facts of the general municipal election held on November 8th, 2022.
And I'll second the motion.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Happily.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. Which brings us to presentations. I get to make the first presentation, and this is something that's kind of near and dear to me, because these gavels you get for being up here, you know, we never use this thing. I've never used it. I don't think I've ever seen it used, but it is symbolic of the responsibility that you have, either as mayor or mayor pro tem. Well, this is from our mayor pro tem, who has backed me up as mayor all year, and has shown us, I think, time and time again, why he was elected with such a crazy vote 2 years ago and re-elected just now. Time and time again, he is digs so deep into the mathematics and arithmetic of city government and city budgeting. I don't know how much money he saved this city this year alone just by sitting here with his calculator. As an economics professor, I think he's got students who are going to probably be amazing when they get out there in the real world and deal with the economic realities of life. In addition to that, he's just been just a wonderful presence on the council. All I can say is he's a cheery guy. He's happy, he's friendly, and very positive. It's just a pleasure to work with him. On top of that, he happens to be a fly fisherman like me. I think we're going to go fishing in a couple weeks. And he's a fellow Trojan, which doesn't hurt, at least with me. That may be an issue with some other people up here.
Kelly.
So having said all that, I want to congratulate you, Ed, for a year of service to this city that is unparalleled as our mayor pro tem, and award you this certificate.
Thank you. So now it's my turn.
Yes, so.
So yeah, I'd like to thank you, Mayor Goss, for your leadership over the past 2 years for me. Over the past year as mayor, you've done a fantastic job. 2 years ago, you welcomed 3 new council members when you were mayor pro tem. And needless to say, we were very green and learning, and we're forever grateful for your leadership during that time, because we have learned a lot. What can I say about you? You're amazing with consensus building. I think everybody here witnessed the mayor with consensus building. He does have opinions, as we all do. He does like things to go certain ways, as we all do. But I think more than that, it's important that we have a functioning government body here, and we do. And a lot of that is thanks to the style of Mayor Goss. So it's with great pleasure that I get to present him the big gavel for taking us through this last year. If you saw the state of the city, you would be amazed at all the accomplishments that have occurred in 2022. And a lot of that is due to the leadership of the man sitting to my left. So thank you for everything, Mayor Goss.
Thank you.
I'll just do this from here, but I also have a commendation from the County of Los Angeles. And I have to say, before I read it, this is one of the most beautiful documents
Other than ours.
that I've seen. I don't know if the county does this just for Sierra Madre, but it looks like Sierra Madre. I think there's wisteria in there. It's amazing. So this is from the county's supervisor's office. I'll just go ahead and read it. The County of Los Angeles Commendation, Gene Goss, outgoing mayor, Sierra Madre City Council. In recognition of dedicated service to the affairs of community for the civic pride demonstrated by numerous contributions for the benefit of all the residents of Los Angeles County. December 13th, 2022, Catherine Barger, Supervisor, 5th District.
All right, can't beat that. That is absolutely gorgeous. That is Sierra Madre.
Yeah,
right?
it's a elementary.
They do custom work for them. Okay, I believe we have some people here also. Wait a minute, are we gonna handle?
Yeah, I think maybe we can invite some of, someone from,
Congresswoman Chu's office?
yes, I think.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, City of Arcadia? Okay.
City of Arcadia.
Mayor Chen,
Mayor Chen.
please.
Okay, that's right. Thank you.
Who has waited very patiently.
Waited very patiently.
I think one of the greatest fears of an elected official in city government is to see issues that tear the city apart. I'm so blessed to be here because today I saw perfect residents and perfect city council at work. I'm just so blessed. That's such a difficult issue, and yet I saw each and every one of you really just loving each other and seeing the residents, whether they disagreed or agreed, love each other as well. I wanted to thank you for allowing me to come and thank you for inviting me. My name is Paul Chang. I'm the mayor of the city of Arcadia, your sister city. And I think many of our residents spend probably half of our time in downtown Sierra Madre. So
Thank you.
we love it. My mom lives on Wisteria, so it's everything's full circle. I wanted to welcome back Mayor Goss, Mayor Pro Tem Garcia, Kristen Lowe. Welcome to one of the best councils, and I've gone to a lot of city councils, one of the best councils that you'll serve on. As a first responder, your father being a first responder, also being a teacher, I wanted to thank you for being a superhero. And thank you so much for being a blessing to our community. And also, Rochelle, I was elected in the middle of COVID, and I was very discouraged in many ways. I didn't know what the future was going to hold. And every time you would come up to me, you would touch me, and you would give me your big smile. You told me everything's going to be okay. And you've done that so many times to so many of the elected in my city. So I just wanted to thank all of you for just being a blessing to just a sister city, a nearby city. And thank you for your service all of these years.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
The reason why I didn't mention certificates is I only had one, so I'm going to send the other ones, and we'll have them in one packet together. That is my fault. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
We're very appreciative of you being here.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Hello, my name is Miley Plen for Congresswoman Judy Chu's office. And I just wanted to thank to Mayor Pro Tem Edward Garcia, Mayor Jean Goss, as well as Council Member Rochelle Arizmendi for all your years of service and dedication to the city of Sierra Madre. It takes someone who really loves their city and community to be an elected official. So thank you so much for your willingness to serve and for all of the great insights that you provide to the city, especially during this last, what we just witnessed. Those are some really tough questions. Thank you so much. And so on behalf of Congresswoman Judy Chu and the 27th Congressional District, I do have certificates of congressional recognition for you guys. So if you wouldn't mind coming up to receiving them, that'd be really awesome.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
All of us.
If you want.
Mayor and Councilmember Arizmendi. Yeah, we got one for you too, don't worry. So I'm Declan Floyd from Senator Portantino's office. Mayor Goss, I want to thank you for your service as mayor. You know, you came in at the tail end of the pandemic. Obviously, a lot of controversial issues this year, some contentious city council meetings, but you led with poise and with class, and that says more about you as a person than it does just about you as a mayor. You've also been very innovative. The walks with the mayor, you brought in the car show this year. That was awesome. I know thousands of people came in and got to experience and appreciate Sierra Madre because of that. So really glad you're sticking around for 4 more years. But on behalf of Senator Anthony Portantino and the entire California State Senate, I have this certificate for you, recognizing you and thanking you for your service as mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony, for me.
And then we'll get the party started for the life of the party. Councilmember Arizmendi, I remember, on the 3rd of July this year, we were in Memorial Park, and we were all kind of standing off to the side, and you got right down there on the dance floor, and you brought like 20 or 25 people with you, which is awesome, but that also speaks to who you are as a person. You're so exuberant, joyful, you bring a positive energy to everything that you do, even to these really tough questions that you deal with here. You're very thoughtful, and you, when you were mayor last year, you also had a lot of contentious meetings that you presided over. And I really appreciate that you made sure that everyone's voice was respected and heard. We had a lot of disagreement, but you made sure that everyone's voice got to be heard so that this city could really come together and come through stronger than ever before. So we're very sad that you will not be continuing on, but I know that the city is going to continue looking to you as a leader and as a guide as we move forward. So for you, on behalf of Senator Anthony Portantino and the entire California State Senate, I'd like to present you with this certificate recognizing you for your 8 years of service to the council and wishing you all the best moving forward.
Are there any other presentations?
But that's not all. Okay, we'll get to them. Let me get. Okay, so I have several things here for our outgoing council member, and I just wanted to add some remarks before I present these to her, because we've been through a lot together.
Yes, we have.
8 years and 8 months, but who's counting, right? We have seen so many things happen in the city, so many changes, so many ups and downs and bumps in the road, but overall, we're so much better off than we were when we started, and you deserve a lot of the credit. You've been a solid leader in this community, and I can tell you that the team that the last council was before this council, I didn't know whether this council would be you kind of gel and meld together the way that one did. And it did, and it was largely because of you as mayor last year. You kind of helped put the whole thing together. And so I feel like it was my job this year to just try to keep that going, keep some continuity there. And I took a lot of cues from you. So you know I'm your friend, you know that I have a lot of respect for you. And I'm just thanking you from the people of the city of Sierra Madre for your 8 years and 8 months of service.
Thank you.
And I want to give you this. There are several things I'd like to give her. Yay, yay. I think the first thing, this is the plaque that we give to our commissioners and our council members upon leaving. It's beautiful. It's a tile in walnut, and it commemorates the years of service that Rochelle has given to the city. So I'll give you that one first, because that's beautiful.
That is beautiful. Thank you.
And then we also have our city certificate, which she and I have given out a lot of these over the years. It's nice to get one, right? And I think I should read it because it's really important. City of Sierra Madre, Certificate of Recognition. Whereas Councilmember Rachel Arizmendi was first elected to serve on the City Council in 2014, serving as Mayor Pro Tem from 2016 to 2017, and appointed to serve as Mayor from 2017 to 2018, and whereas Rachel Arizmendi was reelected to serve on the City Council in 2018, serving as Mayor Pro Tem from 2019 to 2020, and appointed to serve as mayor from 2020 to 2021. And whereas Mayor Rochelle Arizmendi faithfully and skillfully represented Sierra Madre and its citizens at meetings with public agencies and public events and at various ceremonies. Whereas Councilmember Arizmendi led the city through a fiscally balanced budget in all 8 years that she served on the city council, through fiscally responsible and prudent management that maintains Sierra Madre as a full-service community. And whereas with Mayor Arizmendi's leadership, the city of Sierra Madre established its first full-service fire department and approved the construction of Sierra Madre photovoltaic solar array project. The project is estimated to offset 948,000 kilowatt hours of energy from our water department's distribution functions each year. This translates to an elimination of 693 tons of CO2 emissions and 1,457 barrels of oil, but who's counting? Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Sierra Madre does hereby commend with great appreciation Council Member Rochelle Arizmendi for her dedication and service to the community of Sierra Madre. Presented this 13th day of December 2022, Sierra Madre City Council Mayor Gene Goss, Mayor Pro Tem Edward Garcia, Council Members Rochelle Arizmendi, Kelly Krebs, and Robert Parkhurst. Congratulations, my friend. And we've got two more. Well, this is the one. Oh, here's the one from.
Oh, yes, one.
There it is. Yes. The mayor from Arcadia actually did leave us one.
That's very nice.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And that is a beautiful one. Not as nice as ours, but it's pretty nice.
Is he still in the audience?
I don't want to start something here. And finally, Councilmember Arizmendi gets another one of these gorgeous certificates from Los Angeles County and Supervisor Catherine Barger. County of Los Angeles commendation for Rochelle Arizmendi, outgoing council member, over 7 years of dedicated, so let's make that 8 years of dedicated service to Sierra Madre City Council. In recognition of dedicated service to the affairs of the community, for the civic pride demonstrated by numerous contributions for the benefit of all residents of Los Angeles County. December 13th, 2022, signed, Catherine Barger, Supervisor, 5th District. Congratulations again. I'm gonna have to enlist your husband here to carry some of that stuff out, I think.
And there are no other presentations.
I think that's it, yeah.
If I just briefly.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chamber of Commerce, there is one left. I am sorry, Susan. We saved the best for last.
Just pick up Saturday's paper. Good evening, everyone, and we're going to be brief. I do have two shy board members, you know them as shy, sitting in the back of the room. But on behalf of the Sierra Madre Chamber of Commerce, we being the business community of Sierra Madre, appreciate the hard work that the council members do, and speaking for some of the residents, the hard work that you do in sacrificing your time and taking all the abuse that you sometimes get. And we also know that you all have a wall full of plaques. So we thought this year we'd do something slightly different, and we have some other tokens of our appreciation for you. Starting with our outgoing council person, Rochelle Arizmendi, who we know has no wall space. On behalf of the chamber, thank you for your service. This is a use in case of an emergency only. And this goes to the only man in the history of Sierra Madre that I could find, certainly not in recent history, brave enough to serve 3 terms.
Thank you, Madame.
And then,
yeah, that's the right gift.
you know, I wasn't sure. I was like, I don't remember if Jean drinks. Then another person serving 2 terms, Ed Garcia, and this really speaks to Ed. Your heart is in Sierra Madre.
Well said.
Wait, more. I want you to know that everything that we've given today came from a local business. So we encourage you to shop Sierra Madre. We are going to have 5 people sitting on the council, and we have something for them to help them with their finances. Okay. And we also have for the 2 members who are, one of them is not here. So make sure he gets this. Kelly, what's your favorite color, red or blue? Oh, blue.
Oh, come on. You want
She's the
red. Come
Bruin,
on.
yeah.
Come on.
Thank you. I'm going to give this to Laura for Councilman Parkhurst.
This is what I get for not being there in person, huh?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then, even
Thank you so
though
much. Very kind.
you have not officially sworn in the new council members, this is a special gift to be used in case the city runs into fiscal difficulty during the rest of your term. You take it, you follow the instructions. It says Sierra Madre, California. Mix it up, go out to Memorial Park, have a pancake breakfast, and raise some money. Cinnamon vanilla pancakes.
Thank
caramel
you.
pancakes.
Lovely.
Good enough. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
There you go.
Very
you,
cool.
Susan.
And Chris.
You're just gonna make me flip the pancakes.
Thank you. And thank you for your service.
Thank you. Yes.
Can I say something before you go to the next
You
one?
certainly may.
Don't worry, I'm not going to bore you with a speech, but I do want to thank everyone, from the staff to my colleagues and also the previous council, to city manager, to city clerk and city attorney, and really all the residents here in the city of Sierra Madre. You've really made these 8 years and 8 months, as the mayor said, really a joy. It's been a journey. It all hasn't been all wonderful and rainbows, but I've learned so much and learned to love and embrace the city even that much more. Thank you to my husband for being patient. I know it's been a challenge at some time, and also to my family. So I just want to say I'm thankful and grateful. And I have one last thing that I wanted to present, and I'm going to ask the mayor to come up. Let me go the So I have a lot of friends in elected positions throughout the state, throughout the country, and there was one in particular, she kept posting her photos when she became mayor of the portrait of mayors. I'm like, wow, portrait of mayors. And I asked Laura, I'm like, do you have all of the photos of all of the mayors? She was like, no, we give away those 8x11s when you're done, so I'll look forward to taking mine off the wall after tonight. But in lieu of that, she had this idea, and I think it's a fantastic idea. So as opposed to the portrait of all the mayors, we now will have a perpetual plaque of all the mayors. And, okay, that's a little heavy. But I was hoping Rob Stockley was still here. Mayor Stockley, I think he left. But I know Mayor Glenn Lambden is here, so I'd love for you to come up. But I'd like to present this, I guess to us, as a perpetual plaque. And I look forward to all my fellow council members who will also be on here. And if you see any of our fellow mayors throughout the city or in other cities, please let them know it's here. I think it's a great testament to the truly 100 years of service plus to our wonderful city of Sierra Madre. So, okay, yeah, I can't carry that. Yeah, where's Glenn?
20 years ago. It's on there, I saw it. Where should we put this? Now we get to go to our last agenda item. Second, oh, yes, that's right, second to last. We will now, Madam City Clerk will swear in the new, 3 new council persons.
Mr. Mayor, in order of votes, the first oath would be for Councilmember-elect Christine Lowe.
All right. I, Christine Lowe, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true allegiance to true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California. That I take this obligation freely and without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. And that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. Oh, take your seat.
Take your seat.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, the second on the votes is for you, Jean Goss.
I have and a pen. How fun. And pancakes.
Oh, you know, I might even try my glasses on this. Yeah. Oh, thank you. I, Jean Goss, do solemnly swear I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California. That I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. And I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter. So help me God.
And next, Mayor Pro Tem Edward Garcia.
I, Edward Garcia, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California. That I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
And that brings us to our last agenda item, which is to select our new mayor and mayor pro tem. And I am going to pull rank here as my last official act as mayor. And I am going to make a motion that Kelly Krebs be our next mayor pro tem and that Edward Garcia would be our next mayor.
Mr. Mayor, it would be my sincere pleasure to second that nomination and fully support it.
We have a motion. It has been seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
And this motion is unanimous. We now have a new mayor and mayor pro tem.
I don't know if I should use this. Nobody's ever used it. Thank you, everybody, for coming out here tonight. I'd like to thank my family for being here. I have my mom, my sister, my niece, my in-laws here as well. My kids, my three wonderful children, and my beautiful wife. As Councilmember Arizmendi said before, this role does take a toll on the family, but I can firmly and confidently state that I have full support. And I really look forward to this next year, working with this council. We have a new council member. I'm very excited to work with Chris. I've known her for over 20 years, and I've known her partner Dan Bell for probably over 30 years. So you can't sum those up. I'm not that old yet.
Yes, you are.
Almost. So I look forward to what we're going to do together for this city. I look forward to what we're going to do together for the residents of the city. And I'm really excited to be mayor. Mayor Pro Tem, do you have anything to say?
No, actually, I do not.
Okay. Well, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I move to, go ahead.
Could I just say one quick thing? I just
Yes.
want to thank everybody, and I want to thank you, Mayor, and Mayor, former now Mayor. Thank you, Councilman Jim Goss. Running with you guys was amazing. Thank you for that experience, and thank you, everybody, for everything you've done. And I'm excited to serve with this amazing team that we have. So
Thank you.
congratulations.
Sorry for not giving
no,
the
that's
opportunity. Councilman Parkhurst, do you have anything?
No.
Okay.
Congratulations, everyone.
All right. Is there a motion?
I move to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. The motion carries unanimously. All right.
Proud of you.